As you can tell by the title of the video, I am probably about to get into some serious trouble with you guys because today we are going to be talking about my top 5 Batman Arkham hot takes. Now, if you're not familiar with what a hot take is essentially something that's not a popular opinion. It's meant to be something that's out of the ordinary of general opinions that can be seen as maybe it's extreme or just something sinister or something else, but generally just seen as a not very popular opinion. And the term hot take has kind of become very popular over the last few years. So I want to talk about my Batman Arkham hot takes today, and I do have a list here in front of me. If I'm not very good at explaining this sort of stuff, sometimes I just have a hard time with explaining how I feel about something, but there is reason there for it. But I have about, I got 5 here like the title says, and I'm going to start off with the kind of the more mild ones, and then we're going to make our way into the hot ones. Now, the thing is, I'm not too sure how hot of takes these are considered, and if these are not considered hot takes, then I don't really have very many to begin with. But let me know your guys' hot takes on the Batman Arkham franchise down in the comments below, and without further ado, let's get into this. Now, the first take I have, and this is kind of like a mild one. We're dipping our toes in the water here a little bit, because this is something that's very subjective, I believe. And I'm going to honestly say that I believe that the Batman Beyond skin is overrated, because I know a lot of people rate this as their number 1 skin, but to be honest, I don't understand the hype around it. Maybe it's because I'm not that, hardcore of a Batman fan per se. I'm a huge fan of the character. I've seen, quite a few movies and such, played the games, obviously, but I'm not someone who, reads every single comic. I'm not too familiar with Batman Beyond and such, so maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my personal taste in cosmetics, because I'm not a big cosmetics guy to begin with. I'm someone who's a lot more simple within my taste. I just don't understand the hype around the suit. Now, hold on for a second. I don't think the Batman Beyond skin looks bad or anything. I just don't see how it looks so special compared to what everyone else seems to think, that this is like the world's best looking suit. I think it's a good looking suit, but I don't think it's like the best one. I prefer the more generic Batman ones, like the Batman Arkham Knight one, the one that you play as in the story. I like that one more because of my simple taste, but dipping our toes into the water with that one. The next one I have here was definitely probably more of a hot take. I'd probably say about 5 or 6 years ago. But I think in recent times, I don't think this is as big of a hot take. And I just don't think that Harley Quinn's Revenge is that great. I think it's decent. I think it's okay. But to be honest, it doesn't add a whole lot for me. It's kind of just it's like an extra little tidbit. It's kind of like a side mission for me. It doesn't really do a whole lot for me. You play as Robin, but Robin isn't that interesting. He's just trying to be a copycat of Batman. And what I don't understand is why didn't Robin initially enter the room to go after Harley Quinn when, the DLC first started? I don't know why, he didn't just enter and take out Harley Quinn then. You could argue because he was looking for Batman, but I would think that taking out the head boss would be a good way to go after Batman. I don't know, I just never really... I like Harley Quinn's Revenge. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. At the time, it was probably seen as absolutely perfection, but I think when, Cold Heart came out, it kind of set a new standard. Now, that's not to say that Harley Quinn's Revenge isn't a top 5 DLC in the Batman Arkham series, and maybe that's due to the lack of story mode DLCs like that we see within the series. However, I just don't think it's on the level of a Cold Heart. I don't think it's on the level of A Matter of Family, because for me, it just doesn't cut that deep personally. Because obviously the Joker's died, you rescue Batman, which is fine. Then you get Harley Quinn. I don't know. It just never really struck that deep with me in comparison to Cold Heart or A Matter of Family. Now, I think we're starting to up the level of ante here a little bit in terms of the spiciness of the hot takes here. Now, this one here is kind of one that I don't know how to feel. I don't even know if this is a hot take at all or not. Again, I'm literally just going based off what I think a hot take would be. And if you think I'm an idiot, please let me know down in the comments. And I will absolutely reassess and, maybe make another one in the future that is more updated and more well done in terms of what's actually a hot take. But this next one is, I don't think I think the Batman Arkham Origins boss fights are very overrated. Now, I know that they are considered the best in the series, and I can agree with that. However, I'm gonna be honest, not a lot of these fights are very memorable. Or they might be memorable somewhat, but they're very, very average. Killer Croc comes to mind, because he was a tutorial, so fair enough. Shiva's wasn't that great. Just in my opinion. Deadshot was a great one because that one was actually really challenging for me personally. Deathstroke was good, but I actually would say it's not as good as the Deadshot one personally. I really like Bane's. I think Bane's boss fight at the very end with the TN1, that one's very underrated. I never see anybody talk about it. The rest of them for me personally were just kind of eh. Copperhead was I didn't like that one personally. It kind of felt like a wannabe version of the Ra's al Ghul fight, which was so much better than the Copperhead. Obviously, Electrocutioner was nothing. I don't know, the boss fights to me were just not that memorable. I mean, Firefly was decent, it was average, but a lot of these boss fights are average in my opinion. It just didn't, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm expecting too much, but I think Deadshot and Deathstroke were very good. They were great, especially Deadshot's. Bane's was good, like I mentioned, and the rest just weren't that memorable in my opinion. So I think that the Batman Arkham Origins boss fights are severely overrated. However, I do have to say I do think that they are the best in the series still, because Batman Arkham Asylums didn't have really any true boss fights, right? Batman Arkham City, kind of a similar thing. They had the Mr. Freeze one, which is regarded as the best in the series. Outside of that, nothing too crazy outside of like maybe Solomon Grundy. Nothing too big in terms of Batman Arkham City, boss fights that were too difficult outside of Mr. Freeze, and in my opinion at the very least. In Batman Arkham Knight's, boss fights were not that great. But Batman Arkham Origins does have the best boss fights, but I do think those boss fights are overrated, simply due to how underwhelming the other game's boss fights truly were. Okay, these next two are actually going to get me into trouble, because I think these are both hot takes. And I don't know which one to put in that, number 2 slot, but I'm going to go with, I believe Batman Arkham City is overrated. Now, hold on for a second. Put your pitchforks down. Hold on for a second. Just take a deep breath. I love Batman Arkham City. I think Batman Arkham City is fantastic. The combat's spectacular. If you released a game like Batman Arkham City today, I wouldn't have very many complaints. My issue is more with the overall story mode. It kind of seems like it doesn't know what direction it wants to go in. For instance, it doesn't know if it wants to go down the Protocol 10 path. It's kind of like, Protocol 10's coming, so we have to stop it. Oh, but the Joker's poisoned us, and we have to get a cure. It doesn't seem like it knows which direction to go in the entire game. It kind of feels like it takes Hugo Strange, who is supposed to be the main villain, and kind of puts him on the back burner the entire time, for the sake of the Joker, which, honestly, I think if you took the whole Joker stuff out, and you tried to figure out, how to stop Protocol 10, I don't know how much it would personally change. Obviously, a lot of the story is more revolved around the Joker and trying to get a cure, but the Joker dies at the end of the game, regardless. Now, you could argue that he is trying to Batman's trying to get a cure for himself. That's a valid point, and that's fair enough. But I think Batman's always more concerned with who he can save, rather than himself. I don't think he's worried about himself as much as others, and that's very evident with just the way he tries to save Gotham. Now, I don't know how to phrase this without it sounding like something that every superhero story is, but if I'm going to be honest, I kind of think that the Batman Arkham City story, it's kind of like a goose chase the entire time. It seems like you're constantly chasing down someone different. You go after Penguin, oh, then you go after Ra's al Ghul, oh, then you go after Freeze, and then you go back after Joker, oh, and then you try to stop Protocol 10. It doesn't feel like it's has a set direction it wants to go in. It wants to stop Joker, it wants to save Batman, get a cure, save Joker, but it also wants to stop Protocol 10. It doesn't feel like it has a set rhythm and pace throughout the entire course of the game. And so I think that the story mode is just a little bit overrated in my opinion. I still think it's a good story. It's a decent enough story. It's good enough to where I could play Batman Arkham City and enjoy it. But it's not just the story that I have gripes with overall. Also the side missions. Because it's something I kind of mentioned earlier about the Batman Arkham Origins boss fights. A lot of the Batman Arkham City side missions aren't really that memorable, in my opinion. The Political Prisoners comes to mind. That's not too memorable of a side mission. The Victor Zsasz one is decent enough, I guess, but I don't like the whole chasing on the phones thing. It's not my thing personally. The Bane side mission is very mid. A lot of the side missions are just forgettable. It sets up the Hush side mission for Batman Arkham Knight, which flopped horrendously. Batman Arkham City, an amazing game. Definitely like an 8 out of 10 kind of game, 9 out of 10 kind of game. I just don't think it's like on the level. Like people say it's the best in the series, and I just don't know if I can agree with that. Now I'm on to the last take of the video, and this one's gonna get me into a lot of trouble, but I really want you guys to hear me out on this. I don't think the Batmobile was overused. Now, hold on for a second, right? I understand why people might be screaming at me, because I know this one's a hot take, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this before. But I don't think the Batmobile was overused. Now, let's think about it this way. This is the last game in the Batman Arkham franchise. The game wanted you to, have experience using the Batmobile at the very beginning. They wanted you to use it early and often, so you can get used to the mechanics throughout the course of this game. They throw the Batmobile in a couple of side missions, not really considered a big deal whatsoever. They added racetracks, which I think is just additional fun if you choose to do it. You don't have to do it. The Riddler races I thought were a lot of fun, actually. I don't know why. I've never really been into racing games generally, besides maybe a little bit of GTA racing, but I actually think that the races are a lot of fun. It kind of gives you something challenging and something different outside of the typical Riddler rooms and Riddler trophies. It gives you something different to overall aspire to, and I don't think that it's overused in the game, considering the fact that the amount of tank combat, the car combat in this game, is around the same level as the hand-to-hand combat and the stealth sections. So you can't really say it's overused when they're just trying to find ways to include it into the game, especially when the customer asked for it in the first place. People were asking to use the Batmobile, and then they got it, and then they complained there was too much Batmobile. You can't really have it both ways, because I actually believe if there was less Batmobile in the game, people would probably say, oh, the Batmobile wasn't used enough, I hardly got to use it, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just a case of there's no satisfying the customer at the end of the day. I don't think Rocksteady overused the Batmobile, and that's my opinion, and I'm going to stand on that hill. And these were my top 5 Batman Arkham hot takes. Again, I don't know how hot of takes these were, but honestly, this was something I kind of enjoyed, because this is kind of just something I kind of brainstormed. I wrote down a few notes, and these were the ones I thought of, at least off the top of my head. There might be more in the future. I might do another top 5 Batman Arkham hot takes in the future. Who knows, and we'll see, but let me know your guys' biggest Batman Arkham hot takes in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe for more content. We are trying to get to 1,000 subs, and if you leave a thumbs up, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day. Peace!